Popcorn. I'm your host, Katie, and today is Sci Fi Sunday, and I have the Cheeto with me. I have Patrick, and I have the Cheeto with me. And today for Sci Fi Sunday, we're gonna do the cat from outer space from 1978. It is a Disney movie, and it is also rated G. How you doing, Patrick?
Doing great. Uh, Great movie to talk about too.
Yeah, Patrick picked this movie, and I said, okay, let's do it.
Well, of course, it had to be me if it had something to do with cats, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is, though, just to date you how old I am, is that I actually saw this in the theater.
Right.
So I was just a small lad back then, but yeah, I love Disney movies. So I used to go to them all the time when they came out. Um,
Mhm.
so I saw all the Kurt Russell movies. Dexter. I saw all the Dexter
Mhm.
movies. Saw the yeah, just a ton of them. The regulars. Cat from Outer Space. That darn cat. The
Mhm.
Black Hole, which was Disney's first rated PG movie. Saw the Black Hole. Um, and then they got into more adult fare. With the Touchstone and that was their action arm. Buena Vista
Right.
was
Yeah.
their family arm.
This is one of the movies though a lot of Disney people don't talk about.
Yeah, it really surprises me about that too, because we were talking about this before the show, and I was saying there saying how this cast back then in '78, this cast was stacked
Hmm.
for '78. There were a lot of big stars in this movie, and you're looking at it now, and you still look at them and go like, wow, there were some big names back there. Um,
Right.
and so it's a little sad that a lot of people, a lot of new Disney people, they've sort of forgotten it, and Disney themselves, because I don't know if the
Mhm.
cat from space ever got the Blu-ray treatment.
I don't
uh,
think it did. I think it's just streaming. It's just streaming on Disney Plus, and I think it's like DVD and VHS.
yeah, so
Or
you
back then it was probably Laserdisc.
maybe Laserdisc, but that's a real shame because this is a really cute movie, and one that you could show your kids easily today and be
Hmm.
entertained. I mean, you watched it on Disney Plus. I mean, were you
Yeah.
entertained by watching it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Hmm.
I liked it a lot. So if you guys don't know, The Cat from Outer Space is about. I'll give you the um the the synopsis of it. So a UFO makes an emergency landing on Earth, and it is taken into custody by the U.S. government. The occupant of the flying saucer turns out to be a strange cat alien named Zoran or Zorda, or however you say his name. I'm bad with names.
Zunar,
Sorry. Huh?
Zunar J59.
Yeah, Zorner J59. And since the mothership cannot send a rescue party before it leaves the solar system, the cat sets about investigating how to repair the ship himself using a special color that amplifies Trinky and telepathic abilities. He follows the military to an energy research lab where they where they hope to learn how the UFO power source works. One of the lab scientists, Frank Wilkinson, attacks attaches the cat's attention when his theory of the power source, while reclining by the rest of the staff, is actually on the right track. And so the cat follows Frank home, but Frank nicknames him Jake. So it's like one of those things, and then that's where the story actually starts.
Yeah, I liked when they were talking about the power source for the spaceship, and
Mhm.
and Frank mentions he mentions they ask him, well, what do you think it is? And he goes, mayonnaise. that made me,
Right?
that made me laugh.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny too. When I first saw it, I thought it was funny too.
Uh, so back when this movie came out, and this is directed by a veteran Disney director. He had directed a lot of. He directed like 10 movies, 10 or 12 movies. Norman Tolkar, and he died at a relatively. He died at only 59. He died of a heart attack, but he did leave a great legacy behind of fine Disney films.
Hmm.
Um, he was sold on making movies for Disney. And a lot of the movies that he made were really, really fun. He did
Hmm.
Candlestick with Jodie Foster, No Deposit, No Return, the Apple Dumpling Gang,
Oh, I love
um,
those movies. Maybe I should review those.
the Beatniks. So there was a lot of movies he also did a really fantastic Fred MacMurray movie called
Hmm.
Finding Boys, which was basically a ode to the Boy Scouts, which is really, really good movie. Um,
Hmm.
so he was definitely in his element here with Cat in Outer Space. The movie Snappy. Um, it is a little
It's very
long.
witty though too. It's very witty.
It is very witty. The only thing I would sit there and say, which really did surprise me, um, I was so surprised at how long it ran. It ran for an hour and 45 minutes,
And most
and
movies back then didn't even run that long.
no, I mean it was. I mean back then, most of if you go look at most kids movies, they're between 80 and 85 minutes long. Uh,
Hmm. Yep.
because the attention spans, especially if you're taking young kids to a Disney movie, you don't want to sit there and you can't expect them to be, especially
Right.
if they're overloaded on sugar and popcorn. You can't really
Hmm.
expect them to sit there in their seats for an hour and 45 minutes. But this
Right.
movie for the adults, though, this movie pops along pretty well.
Yeah, it does. Do you think it still holds up today? What's your question on that one?
Yeah,
What's your answer
yeah,
on that question?
I was thoroughly entertained by it. Thoroughly entertained by it. I love the homage. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I love the homage to another movie that came out the year before, a movie called Capricorn One,
I've
and
never seen that one.
that's a science fiction movie. You could definitely you could do that one here. Um, so the plot of Capricorn One is that the United States faked the landing on the moon. They faked it.
Mhm.
They filmed it and they faked it, and then the astronauts they all escaped, and then they all get hunted down and killed except for one. And the big scene of the movie is a chase between helicopters and a biplane, which is the same ending that we have here for the Cap in Outer Space. They have a biplane and a helicopter chase, and it's just like it was almost like too coincidental. It's like, yeah, I
Right.
have a feeling they saw the Capricorn One chase and said, let's do that in our movie, which worked.
Hmm.
It's very cute. Um, uh,
Right.
and yeah, I think this movie holds up today. I mean, if they were going to remake it, they would definitely have to they would definitely have to try to keep the same light element to it because this
Right.
movie, there's no serious moments in it at all. There's
No.
um, it might be a little bit, the final scene might be a little sketchy for kids, but you know,
Right.
people flying, could almost
Hmm.
fall out of the
Well, they
airplane.
would use too much CGI, I think, in this movie. And back then, they used practical effects and like green screens.
They used practical. I tell you one thing they did practical. That was filming that chase scene. That was all
Hmm.
practical. That was, I mean, sure there was green screen for the close-ups, but but they filmed that chase
Hmm.
practically, and it
Right.
definitely adds a lot to the film. Um, I was really impressed with the interaction between the human actors and the cat.
Me
Uh,
too. And the
that's what
cat talks, and I like that when he first finds out that the cat can talk. That was interesting.
um, the cast is really the secret of this movie. This is what makes the Cafe Outer Space really work. The plot is pretty strong. The cat comes
Hmm.
out of outer space. They capture the spaceship.
Hmm.
cat wants to get, he doesn't have very much time to get off the planet back to the mothership. And there's a lot of comedy in there. I know some parents might be wondering, like, did this movie praise gambling? I don't think it praised gambling, but it was a great
No.
plot point for it. Um,
Yeah.
but
I like
I,
how well written the story is too.
I was too. I thought it was that was written by Ted Key, and yeah, I thought it was fun too. And the chemistry between all the actors was really strong. And that's
Mhm.
where a lot of times, a lot of movies like this, that's where they go wrong, is that they put people up again. They cast people who they don't have the good chemistry, and it shows.
Mhm.
But I thought the cast for this movie was a lot of fun, and like I said before, for '78, this was a
Mhm.
big cast. This is a
It
Disney
was.
movie. This was a Disney movie. This is when Disney movies, the kid Disney movies were still attracting a big box office. A
Mhm.
lot of press. Because a new Disney movie came out. I mean, this movie did fine. I would have to look up the numbers for the box office, but I can tell you it did fine. It certainly made its money. Um,
Right.
the cat was really well trained too.
Yeah, it was.
They used two cats for the movie. There was two. They had
Mhm.
and it was an Abyssinian cat breed, which sort of looks colorish like when I first saw him, because I do believe that darn cat was a Siamese, but
It was. Yeah, it was. That darn cat was a Siamese.
and an Abyssinian sort of resembles like a Siamese in the wheat color of the fur. The fur's
Mhm.
wheat colored like a Siamese, but I
Mhm.
I thought this cat was gorgeous.
So this is an interesting fun fact. The budget for this movie was 3.5 to 4 million for this movie.
And it made its money back. It made its money back. It made its money back at the theater. Made its money back. Remember, this movie also got shown on network TV, which the Wonderful World of Disney that used to air at 7 o'clock on I want to say it was ABC at first, and then it went to
Mhm.
NBC. But this came out on ABC. So network wise, syndication wise, it made its money. Uh, Whole market. I'm not sure if it got
Mhm.
released on Laserdisc, but definitely know it got released on VHS and it got released on DVD.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it more than made its money back. I mean, for sure, and it needed to because and it shows you in a sense too how much the
Mhm.
actors believed in this movie, because you think about it, with the cast that they had, those actors
Mhm.
didn't make a lot of money for the
Right.
power that's in here. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm looking at, a 3.5 to $4 million budget with the cast that they had. I'm I'm sh-
Mhm.
I'm shocked that the budget was that small.
Well, maybe
Um,
they that's why I think they used more practical effects than the green screen effects in this movie too.
well, I think part of it had to do with the fact that a lot of these actors, they wanted to do this movie too, because Disney back then, doing a
Mhm.
Disney movie, it was almost like getting to do a superhero movie today, like a Marvel
Right.
movie or a Star Wars.
Mhm.
You get to do that,
Right.
and sometimes you take less money because you just want to do the project. You want to
Right.
be included on it. Um,
Mhm.
that's why you see a lot of like bigger movie stars. You see them going like, "Well, did you know so and so is doing a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie?" They're not
Mhm.
leading. They're not the lead star, but they're going to do it because it's just the fact that it's so cool. Like you know
Right.
seeing someone like Robert Redford or
Mhm.
Liam Hurt, Oscar winners,
Right.
to land inside there. It's just it's sort of, they know they're not going to make the big money, but
Right.
they're, maybe not up front, but they get to be a part of a franchise. And back in
Mhm.
the '70s, a lot of stars did Disney movies because of that. They could
Right.
go there and say, "Yeah, I did a Disney movie." There was a cachet to it. Uh,
Right.
Now,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
what was the first Disney movie you remember seeing? Do you remember seeing any? Do you remember seeing what your first Disney movie was?
Um, my first Disney movie was Beauty and the Beast. That's why I like it so much.
You know,
Because that was the
Disney.
time that I was growing up. Because I'm an '80s baby, so about like 1992, that's when I started getting into Disney movies like The Great Mouse Detective and The Black Cauldron and Snow White, Cinderella, stuff like that. You know. But The
Disney,
Black Cauldron's another one that people don't talk about. It's very underrated as well.
Disney's always, when you really think about it, Disney's roots, seriously, their roots are strictly it's fantasy. It's
Mhm.
always been fantasy. Cinderella, Snow White, The Black Cauldron, Fantasia. Uh, you know,
Mhm.
all fantasy. They didn't break out until afterwards. When they started doing movies like Dumbo or Bambi or but I mean, but
Mhm.
a lot of it, a lot of the Mickey Mouse, it's all rooted in fantasy and science fiction. Um, and still today, I mean, I'm thinking of all the movies, like all the Kurt Russell movies, they always had a
Mhm.
science fiction angle to it.
Right.
The boy who wore the computer who wore tennis shoes, you know, um,
Mhm.
the strongest kid in the world, and it's all based on science
Yep.
fiction.
Disney actually in their repertoire now, they have like a little bit of everything now. And a lot of people don't realize that because they think, oh, it's just for kids. No, because they also own Hulu now, so they can put Fox movies in there because they also own Fox movies as well. So on Disney Plus, it's not mostly Disney movies now; it's like everything.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, here's the problem I have with Disney, and you're right, they have a little bit of everything, but the fact of the matter is that these movies here, yeah, they might be on the streaming service, they might be on the
Mhm.
streaming service, but they're never talked about. I mean, yeah, they're
Right.
on there, but they're not talked about. Disney doesn't publicize movies like this anymore. They don't have like a
Mhm.
retro week or a retro month like Turner Broadcasting, Turner Movies Broadcasting, TCM, Turner Classics.
Mhm.
They have like a Academy Award month, show movies from
Mhm.
the Academy Award. They'll have Academy Award nominees or Academy Award winners. They have
Right.
themes throughout their whole month. And I don't see Disney doing that, and they have so many kids movies that they could do that
Mhm.
with. Could you
They
imagine?
do that on Disney Plus, but it's like in the features thing when you go there, but they just don't advertise it. They just advertise it on Disney Plus.
Could you imagine Disney in prime time? Disney Plus. You
Mhm.
imagine Disney in prime time? Um,
Mhm.
or because they have a schedule there, I guess, or
Mhm.
I don't think maybe they don't have a linear schedule, but on let's say on ABC, okay, so they're Disney owned. Could you
Mhm.
imagine? Could you imagine during this writer strike right here, and they
Yeah.
say, well, we need to show something we need to show something on, because we have nothing left to show,
Mhm.
right? Could you imagine if what the reaction would be if Disney said,
Mhm.
"We're gonna run a week or 2 weeks, festival of all the classic Disney movies like this at 8 o'clock."
Mhm.
Could you imagine if they try to do something like that? Could they get away with it? Could they
Right.
show The Cat from Outer Space in
Mhm.
prime time and get away with it? It used to be their narrative was that they could because
Right.
people would see Disney. I mean, Disney in the Wonderful World of Disney aired at 7 o'clock on ABC and then NBC. I want to say for damn near 20 years combined.
Yep. I used to watch it when I was a kid on Sunday
Yeah.
nights. It would be The Wonderful World of Disney, and I used to watch it on Sunday nights as a kid as a family, like 7 o'clock. Guess what? You better get dinner ready or popcorn, and we're gonna watch it.
I remember one of the strongest impressions I had about watching the Wonderful World of Disney. That was the first time I saw the Alamo.
That's a good one.
They aired the John Wayne's Alamo. They aired
Mhm.
2 parts, and I was so like wow, that's so cool, and it was,
Right.
it was
Mhm.
historical and everything else like that. And it was like they aired on the Wonderful World of Disney, and
Mhm.
they aired the other classics as well. Um,
Right.
I thought the chemistry with the cast, like I said before, was really good. Um,
Me
because
too.
so like starting with Ken Berry, we gotta talk about this cast because this is what makes this movie really pop. The story
Right.
itself is really fun. Cat gets stranded, an alien gets stranded on the planet, and what a happy ending too. What a really cool way
Mhm.
to end it too. But a cat
Yeah.
gets stranded on Earth. He meets a human that he can relate with, and they
Yeah.
bond, and then they go through shenanigans to help
Mhm.
alien get off the planet. Um,
I like when the girl shows up at the guy's apartment, at Frank's apartment,
mhm.
and and he's trying to hide the cat.
Uh, yeah. Um, Kim Berry. We'll start with Kim Berry. Kim Berry was a fine comedic actor. He actually got started in his star rose in the '60s when he did a spinoff, the Andy Griffith Show called Mayberry RFD. Um,
Mhm.
and then that's where he got his start. And then later on he did a spinoff from the Carol Burnett show called Mama's Family, which he did for many, many years. He was a fine
Right.
comedic actor, um,
Mhm.
a very well known, very popular guy, and he was, obviously, he was definitely, he was a little bit more lighthearted than someone like Fred McMurray. Fred McMurray always had that gravitas with him,
Right.
whether he did a Disney movie or he did My Three Sons, there was always just a little bit of weight in his feet. Ken Berry, he was
Mhm.
not afraid to have fun and you know and do scenes with a cat. Um, Sandy Duncan at this time, she was a big Broadway star, massive. She was very well known for doing Peter Pan. That's what she was.
Mhm.
Every time she was doing a TV movie or a variety show special or what have
Mhm.
you, she is always introduced as Peter Pan. Um, sort of got typecast in a sense for that.
Right.
Um, but
But
she was a good comedic actor as well.
I was gonna say also, if a lot of people don't know, Peter Pan is a boy, right? But in Broadway or even the live action movies, some of them, actually Peter Pan is played by girls. A lot of
And
people don't know that fun fact.
Kathy Rigby, who was a world class gymnast, Olympic gymnast, I think she also that's where her star stayed. And after the Olympics over, she also did Peter Pan.
Mhm. I just wanted to bring that up as you were talking about it.
Um, so you got Ken Berry, you got Sandy Duncan, Harry Morgan. Harry Morgan, to me, is the biggest name. Well, some people might say a couple of other names might be bigger, but for me, Harry Morgan. Is a chance for him to do light comedy. And as you can see, if you watched Dragnet, it came on in 1987.
Never
Uh,
seen that.
um, well, Harry Morgan, he was a fine character actor, and his claim to fame was he did a comedy show called Pete and Gladys in the '50s. That was a very funny show, and so he's very lighthearted. But he is also a radio actor, and he did and Jack Webb basically. I don't necessarily say discovered him, but he used him a lot in Dragnet, both on the '50s series and on the radio. In fact, he's really funny on the radio. The first time he popped up, he played a boarding room operator, and then he
Mhm.
played a jewel thief. And the jewel thief, it's hilarious.
Right.
That's a funny episode. But Harry Morgan was known for playing Bill Gannon on Dragnet uh,
Mhm.
during the late '60s and '70s. So, and he had done that. He also done Heck Ramsey. He ended up doing John Wayne's last movie, which came out in '76, called The Shootist. Um, he played Sheriff Thibodeau, uh, which was a very funny scene between him and John Wayne. Um, but he was very well known, and a lot of people don't know that. that side of Harry Morgan, but they do know him as playing the Mash.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, played
The show or the movie?
no, the show.
Oh, okay, yeah. I used to watch that as a kid too.
So yep, he played a crazy guy at first. Played a crazy guy first in the episode in '74, but then he came back. The next year, and then he played Colonel Sherman T. Potter. Now, the connection with Harry Potter, I mean Sherman Potter, is um, let's see, let me go back here real quick. It's the fact that he shared scenes with McLean Stevenson, and McLean
Mhm.
Stevenson starred as Mass's Harry Blake. And he was a very popular character, but he felt like he was stifled as an actor, so he wanted to leave the show. So they killed off his character in an episode, and it's one of the probably the most five famous
Mhm.
episodes of MASH, as when his
Mhm.
plane got shot down and his character died. And then the next year, Harry Morgan came on and took this place as Colonel Potter. But as you see here, that they
Right.
acted before that. Uh,
Mhm.
so McLean Stevenson was a fine actor too. He was very funny in the role. He just felt like he was just typecast, so he wanted to get
Right.
out of. Of course, now if you're into horror films, there's a couple of movies that we're going to talk about. A couple of actors we could talk about. One being Roddy McDowall, obviously, um, played in Fright Night, played the horror host Peter. I forget his last name, but he played Peter. He played the horror host that
Mhm.
got to investigate the vampires in Fright Night. He also shot to crazy ass fanboy fame as Cornelius in Planet of the Apes. He did all the
Mhm.
Planet of the Apes movies, and he did the TV show. So he's very, very well known for that. And
Right.
for me, and I got to show you this episode because you and I we watched the pilot episode of Fantasy Island in the '70s. Roddy
Mhm.
McDowall played the devil in one of the most famous episodes of that series, and let me tell you, it is spooky. It is
Mhm.
spooky. He plays a great devil, and that's a fantastic episode.
Right.
Actually, I would dare say it's my favorite episode of Fantasy Island. Um, so Roddy McDowall, a lot of horror cachet. You know,
Mhm.
if you're looking at him, but he was very funny. He also did comedy.
Right.
He was very good in here as the bad guy. You know, as a Mr. Steelwood. Um,
Mhm.
had you seen any of these actors before today? Did you recognize any of their faces?
No,
Past work.
because they're like a little bit before my time. I know the one you said was from Dukes of Hazzard. I've seen Dukes of Hazzard, the old version of Dukes of Hazzard, but that's the only person I recognize. But before that, I didn't know really any of the actors or actresses, just because I should maybe watch more 70s movies and 60s movies, maybe, but
TV series.
um but they just don't ring a bell to me, just because that's why I let you talk about them, because
Oh,
I have no clue. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure if I looked it up or whatever, I could tell you. But you know,
well, the reason why I felt like going through the cast, because I mean I know some people might look at this and go like, it's a Disney movie, it's rated G, it's has a cat in it, they might
Mhm.
tune it off, but it's like
But
tune it
Jake's so
off.
cute though.
But yes, Jake is very handsome, very very handsome,
Hmm.
and
But
but
I thought it was
I just want to sit there and say that if you're a horror fan or a science fiction fan, you can't really just simply dismiss this movie because it's a rated G Disney movie. I mean, you
right.
can come back and take a look at the damn cast. The cast is just stacked. It's like
Hmm.
this is a really fun movie, and they
It
all
is.
deliver. Um,
Hmm.
uh,
And I thought it was interesting how they crafted the spacecraft too that he was in, Jake was in, because
mhm.
back then they didn't really have much to craft it with.
No, not much at all. But it looked great. I mean, I liked how it looked because if you really look at at the spaceship, it does look like a cat. the big green eyes,
Yeah.
I saw the first thing I saw, I said, the only thing damn missing from this is some whiskers. If they would have had some antenna on the side there to make it look like
Right.
a cat itself, I mean, that would have been
Mhm.
funny. But the eyes itself, it did look like a cat. And the
Right.
effects on the inside, when they went in there and they were pressing the console and all the
Mhm.
bells and whistles, for
Mhm.
1978, that was pretty good. Um,
Right.
it really did. It didn't look bad at all. They had a lot of
Mhm.
a lot of components that were moving. You press this
Right.
button, the shelf will come out, and you see all these control buttons. I mean, the spaceship effects looked really, really good.
Yeah, it
I mean,
did.
um, it actually still looked good today. When I was watching the movie, I was like, this is pretty good. It aged well. Um,
Mhm.
as far as I was concerned, um,
Right.
the effects that Jake did, the pool
Mhm.
table and the freezing of the guards and
Yeah.
whatnot. I mean, it still looked very fresh. It
Yeah, it
looked,
does.
the telekinesis, the
Mhm.
telekinesis abilities looked just as good. I could you could put Jake side by side with the Scarlet Witch. I couldn't tell
Mhm.
you the difference. They
Right.
both they both looked really, really good. Um,
Mhm.
so I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
a couple more noted actors on here. I
Mhm.
definitely want to do this because I want to short shift the acting. So we had, of course, I just mentioned McLean Stevenson. Um,
Mhm.
of course, it's funny is that he left MASH to break open his career, and sadly, it did the opposite. His career never recovered from leaving MASH. He did a very infamously bad comedy series called Here's Larry, Here Comes Larry, and
Never
oh,
seen it.
oh, nobody else did either, Katie.
Mhm.
Nobody else did either. Um,
Right.
yeah, and he never really got back on his feet as far as that goes. I mean, he still did work, but his star was never the same after
Mhm.
MASH. Um, uh, 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 the veterinarian in this movie is played by Alan Young, and Alan Young
Mhm.
was a well-known actor, and he did one of the most famous animal-based TV series ever. He played Wilbur
Mhm.
Post in the show called Mr. Ed, which was about
Right.
a horse. So he played Wilbur. So
Mhm.
that lasted 7 years. Isn't that
Wow.
scary? Isn't that scary if you think about it?
Yeah.
A talking
I've
horse.
seen that show. I've seen that show.
It lasted for 7 years. It just makes you wonder what people were watching back then. Like, what were you thinking of watching this? But this is back then when I think it aired on CBS, and this is back then when what they would call it rural comedies. So this is the
Right.
this is a period where they had like Petticoat Junction, Green Acres,
Mhm.
Andy Griffith Show. Maybe I mean
Yep.
all these they call them
I've seen
rural
all
comedies.
those.
Yep. So this is Mr. Ed was one of those. It won the last black and white movie series as well, 1961 to 1968. Conrad played the chief doctor.
Mhm.
Conrad is a well-known voiceover actor, super well-known voice actor. He also played in some really cool movies, including one very twisted movie called uh, Doctor T, the 5,000 Fingers of Doctor T. Uh,
Right.
Crazy movie. Um, the movie that if you some people back in the 60s they would drop acid to watch it.
Oh, wow.
Just telling you. And of
Right.
course we mentioned Sorrel Brook. Sorrel Book, he played a judge. He had a small role in it as and of course he played Boss Hogg in Dukes of Hazzard. And then the last big horror name fan that people might remember, though it's more like horror comedy, and that is James Hampton, who played Michael J. Fox's dad in Teen Wolf. That's right.
Mhm.
Then he played the dad in Teen Wolf, and here he plays Captain Anderson. Um,
Right.
so you could see that they took some time and effort, and they casted this,
Mhm.
um, because they took the movie seriously. You know, they wanted to make the movie. You know, wasn't gimmicky or anything else. They wanted to get
Right.
out there. They wanted to entertain kids, and they did. Um,
Mhm.
Science was fun. The science was fun.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was.
you know, like they had a when Frank had to figure out the component that Jake needed to fly his spaceship out of there, and he figured
Yep.
out gold. That was cool. And then and Jake's abilities with the collar. All right, so um, that was just some of the casters, other ones as well too. But those are the ones that are probably really real best well known. Um, the romantic the romance between Frank and Liz. Um, Dr. Elizabeth Bartlett, who played by Sandy Duncan. That was really nice. Um, you definitely tell they were comfortable with each other, and it shows on screen. Didn't seem forced at all. Um, Ronnie Shell, who I didn't mention, but we will now. Ronnie Shell was a very well-known, also well-known character actor and a comedian. He was a very big stand-up comedian. He was a clean comedian, which means he didn't do like a risque set. Um, wasn't like Bob Saget, who was the dad on Full House, and then your uncle Joe on the stage. Ronnie Shell did a lot of he did a lot of local comedy clubs in L.A. He did a ton of TV work as well. Always reliable. You saw Ronnie Shell, you always knew you're going to get a laugh.
Mhm.
um, he played Sergeant Duffy in the movie, but he also voiced Jake. He was the voice of Jake. I did not know that until I saw him as Sergeant Duffy,
Mhm.
and then it took me a minute to correspond that he was also Jake.
Right.
He was really good too.
Mhm.
Because his comedy was really really mellow.
Right.
It really was. It was a really mellow comedy. He was just, he was fun to watch. Um, you could type in his name on the tube or probably even Tubi and get some
Mhm.
roles that he did. Um,
Right. Yeah, I thought the way that they did how Jake could talk was really interesting with the collar and everything. I thought that was pretty cool and interesting.
what I liked about it,
What?
what I really liked about the role was they didn't make him into a slapstick character. Like
Right.
his voice always remained cool and calm. You know,
Mhm.
they didn't like I thought it was really cute when he was after Frank would give him dinner and he says, "What's Frank? What's this? What's this?" This is
Mhm.
this is awesome. I mean, you can see that Jake was just chowing down on the food. What is this? Oh, it's tuna. Oh, this is the bomb. This is great.
Right.
That was
Mhm.
really cool too. And I'm because we seen people eat cat food before and not really seem to like it all that much. Um, I,
Oh,
I,
wait, who was that? I'm
uh,
not mentioning any names.
no, me either. I would never mention anybody's name who I saw eat cat food on screen. But
I've seen
you
I've seen two people at least eat it.
yeah. I think they're on the midnight hour, but I'm not going to name names on there. I heard those two guys are going to come back for another cat food challenge in November, but that's just rumor I hear. Um,
Who knows?
we'll find out. I can tell you right now that the cat food challenge. I checked my sources. Um, it is happening November 26th. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that part is going to happen. Um,
Uh,
maybe we'll call the Jake from All Star All State Challenge or something like that.
Right.
What were your final thoughts about the movie? I felt like I've
So
talked too
so
much.
you're good. So I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a family movie. Anybody can watch this movie. I would say maybe like 7, that like range could watch it. And I recommend the movie because the special effects and visual effects still hold up. The storyline still holds up today, even though that it was in 1978. And a lot of movies back then didn't really hold up too well nowadays, just
No,
because that's when it was. And I give this movie an 8 out of 10. That's what I
I
rate it.
I would rate it 8 out of 10 too. And it's funny how you mentioned how the effects are still holding up today, because I remember about the same time this movie came out. It might have been this year actually. I would have to double check.
Mhm.
But one show I remember watching, and it was dated the minute it aired. I mean, it looks horrible today,
Mhm.
horrible, and it looked bad even back then. And that was The Greatest American Hero. Oh Lord, have mercy! That
Never
movie, that
seen that.
was terrible. It was
Mhm.
it was it was dated when it aired. When it aired, you're looking at that. That's some really bad CGI. That's some really bad. And then you try
Right.
watching it today, you have a hard time getting through it today. It's just not good. But this movie held its own, um, which is really interesting because I really like to see it. I like to get a copy of the Black Hole to see how well,
Mhm.
which I think it came out in
That
1970.
one I watched last year. I should review it for Sci Fi Sunday.
You should.
It still holds up, but some parts you can tell.
Mm. Um, and it's funny too because we're mentioning cast on that, and I have to mention Roddy McDowall because Roddy McDowall played in that movie. He played the good robot,
Mhm.
and another strong cast as well. Ernest
Yeah.
Borgnine. Oh my gosh, first
Mhm.
time I ever saw Ernest Borgnine play a bad guy role. Oh my
I
gosh, I
thought
was so,
on
I
that
was so
movie,
shocked.
honestly, I know that we're not talking about that movie, but I thought the bad guy was really good.
Yeah, I did too. Let's see, I'm trying to think of, yeah, Mew was in that. I
Mhm.
forget the rest of the cast, but Anthony Perkins was in it, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, but that's a fantastic movie. Yeah,
So
yeah,
who
that
knows?
movie.
Maybe next Sunday I will review that movie. Who knows?
Are you doing straight? Is this straight science fiction, or are you gonna mix in a little fantasy as well?
I'm gonna do fantasy as well
Yeah, good. Let
because
me
I
know
want to
when.
do like because I want to do like the Lord of the Rings movies and stuff like that, and because that's kind of sci-fi. So I kind of want to do like stuff like that.
Because I was gonna say, we got to talk about the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is one of my top 10 Disney movies ever.
Oh, I like that one too.
That's fantastic. That's that's a
Um,
that's a fantastic movie.
hmm So yeah, so
Uh,
so so Sci-Fi Sunday is actually like fantasy and Sci-Fi Sunday. It's not really Sci-Fi Sunday, but I mean like the last few movies that I've done is sci-fi, but it's kind of like both. You know what I mean?
okay. Yeah, there's a ton
Because
of great
because because
sci-fi.
on any streaming services, just to let people know for the future, on any of the streaming services that you have, if you go look for a sci-fi movie, it says fantasy and sci-fi, so it's kind of both.
Mm-hmm.
Just to let you all know. So if you're trying to do something on your channel, I know this is a rant. If you're trying to do something on your channel, just remember, if you want to do like Sci-Fi Sunday like I do or something like that, just remember you can also do fantasy movies as well, because it's sci-fi and fantasy together.
Uh-oh, Katie's ranty.
What do you think of
We
this
should we
movie?
should
What
we should take
what
a, we should actually take a moment here and say congratulations for being nominated as Horror Tuber of the Month.
Thank you. Yes, and you guys go look at that video and go vote for who you think should be Horror Tuber for October Spooky Month.
The Cheetah and we voted for Lady Valerie as for our nomination for Horror Tuber of the Month.
Right.
Yeah, I think she kicks butt.
She's a great choice.
A great choice. Yeah, you picked all 4 winners. The nominations for you, man, that was hard. It was hard.
Mhm.
It was like, who do I vote for? Because any one of these 4 people deserve it so much. I couldn't think of
Mhm.
4. I can't think of 4 more deserving people at this time than the 4 that you picked. So I'm super
Right.
glad to see them. One of
So
them's
guys,
going
go check
to.
that video out. And Patrick, do you have any? Oh, what do you? Before we go, what did you think of this movie?
I
What are
gave it an
your thoughts?
8. I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8 as well. The only thing I probably would have had advised them to do was cut the movie. They could have cut out at least 15 minutes of this movie to make it a little bit more tighter, the pacing a little bit more tighter. But overall, I thought this movie was really fun and Disney at its peak.
Mhm.
70s, this was one of the better Disney movies of the 70s. I
Mhm.
really liked it, and I highly recommend it. And I picked up my copy at the family video.
And I watched
So,
it on Disney Plus, so you guys can check it out there. Patrick, do you have anything going on your channel this week?
oh my God. Let's see. Yes. So tomorrow night we have the cast and crew of the film Dying to Sleep on Monday. On Tuesday we have actress singer Amiri Blackwell. Wednesday, who do I got on Wednesday? Oh my God, I forgot. I have director Stephen King Simmons, who will be talking about the Parker sessions. And then Thursday, oh, you got to tune in for this one. Um, so we're gonna have Bob Fermanik. He is the owner of the restoration company called 3D Film Archive, and him and his crew, they go around and rescue 3D movies from the 50s and 60s, and they restore them. They
That's
restore the
awesome.
movie. It is amazing. I saw one of the restorations in Robot Monster that came out on Bayview Entertainment. Yo, Peter. Um, came out on Bayview Entertainment. It's fantastic. I just had
Mhm.
to talk to him about this. And speaking of Peter Castro, who is the PR guy from Bayview Entertainment, he will be on the show on Friday. But before that, on the afternoon, we'll be talking with one of our own. We'll be talking with Charles Cochran at 3 p.m. We're doing a matinee on a Friday. So I got a very busy week. Come by and
It
say hi.
sounds like it. Sounds like it. So I have Sci-Fi Monday. I have Sci-Fi Sunday and Monday. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Um, then because this is also a Disney movie, so I probably won't do Disney Monday because it would be 2 Disney movies back to back. So I'll probably just do something else for Monday. We'll see what ends up
You,
happening. Who knows?
you need some inspiration.
What?
You need some mouse inspiration.
And then and then and then on Sunday, next Sunday, I will have Sledgehammer Horror, Ken and Ashley on the channel at 8:30. And
Mhm.
then after
Can I
that
make
I
a
will have
can I make a request right now about that?
what?
Can I make a request about the Ken and Ashley guest
What?
spot? You have to ask them about Hereditary.
Okay,
because
I'll ask him.
they love that movie. And I'm serious. They do love the movie. So you have to
Okay.
mention Predator, and you have to tell them that it came from me, so they can have a good
Okay,
laugh.
I'll tell them. And
Okay.
then and then after that on Wednesday I have the director of a movie that I just watched last week. He will be on the channel. Patrick also interviewed him. So he'll
Who,
be
who
on the channel.
who's
Huh?
that? Who are you interviewing?
His name is I don't
Michael James Menard?
yes. I
Oh
couldn't
yeah, I
pronounce
heard
his
about
last
that guy. That guy's really fun.
name.
That movie's kick ass.
Yeah.
Fun
And
movie.
so he will be on the channel on Wednesday. So I hope everybody enjoyed this little thing, this little Sci Fi Sunday, and I hope everybody has a great week.